Hello ladies and gentlemen, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Phenomenal Views, and no, this is not a movie review. This is, I guess you could say, one of my Christmas presents to you guys, to YouTube. And what am I here to review today? I'm here to review one of my... a book that I strongly recommend that you guys get. And I know I say that about all the books that I have reviewed so far, but every single book I have reviewed is good. But with this one, this is a really good book, and I'm gonna just get away with it. Seth Grahame Smith's, if I did not say his name right, I apologize. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Now, I bought this book right after seeing the movie in 2010, and I liked the movie, but it was hit and miss, and I didn't even know this was a book until after I watched Filmmaster Adam's review of the movie and how he said it was a good book. And I didn't touch this book for years, and I don't know what the heck was wrong with me. I honestly just didn't think I'd like it, but reading it, this is such a good book. Seth Smith had to do a lot of research to get this book right, and this book is such a good read. It's long, but it's totally worth it. Like with some things about like how, and I'm not gonna compare the book to the movie, but if I were to, the book kicks the movie in the gonads. It kicks it in the gonads. But with this book, I'm just gonna go off of a few things I liked. The only thing that I kind of didn't like was when they brought in John Wilkes Booth. And they didn't bring in John Wilkes Booth until chapter 13. There's only 14 chapters, but they're really long. Each chapter is wickedly long. John Wilkes Booth is just wrote in. Like, you know, they talk about like how he was a great actor and how he dressed himself, but they kind of just make him a villain. Like, they don't set him up for anything. I'm like for anyone who doesn't know history, John Wilkes Booth shoots and kills Abraham Lincoln. He assassinates him. But in the book, he hates Abraham Lincoln. And I guess because I don't really understand why. I guess because he wanted slavery. They just throw it in there and basically have him say he has a hatred for Abraham Lincoln. But they also throw in the fact that he's a vampire. And I really like that. When I was reading it, I was at work. I was like, man, I wonder what they're going to do with John Wilkes Booth. I wonder if he's going to be, and they have him as a vampire. One of the things I love about this book is they put pictures in it, and where they supposedly say that there's like stuff of vampires, and other stuff with Abraham Lincoln, like a meeting that he had with someone who he thought was a vampire, and it shows in a circle there's his axe. John Wilkes Booth, it showed his vampire form. Actually, I think, if I am correct, and I am sorry that if I am not, there's a bunch of pictures in this book. I want to say there's a picture of him assassinating Lincoln, but I don't think there is. Nope, there isn't. But it just talks about like how he was able to, and I was honestly wondering how he was able to assassinate Lincoln. And one of Lincoln's bodyguards, I think they said he went out for something. He was trying to get a better seat of the play that was going on, and then he just left and got a drink, and that's why Abraham Lincoln was able to get assassinated. But I'm just gonna dive right into characters. My favorite character in this book, besides Lincoln, is Henry. And it's not because he's one of the main characters. It's because, okay, I'm just going to drop it. There are going to be comparisons in the book to the movie. Because I've seen the movie first. In the movie, Henry is introduced as he sees Abraham Lincoln in a bar, and he knows Abraham Lincoln is trying to kill someone, and he knows he's trying to kill a vampire. But in the book, Abraham Lincoln already knows about vampires. He just doesn't know what they're called. if I'm correct, he's sitting with his dad, he grows a strong hatred for his dad after his mom is killed by a vampire, the very first one he ever encounters, because his dad couldn't pay a debt. He's sitting with his dad at a fire one night, and his dad talks about an experience he had with his grandfather, or it was either his grandfather or his dad, and about how he just seen a demon of the night with black eyes wisping away his grandfather or his dad, and that's what he talked about. And he had finally admitted it. He's like, son, these creatures exist. This is what killed your mother, and that is how Abraham Lincoln knows about vampires. And he actually doesn't. Once again, I'm trying not to compare, even though I just said I'm going to. I'm trying not to, because I don't really think that's fair, because in the movie was actually supposed to be like the book, but the writers did not, but the people who wanted the movie out, they did not want it that way, so they threw in something else. Like in the book, there's no train battle. There's no major vampire whose name is Adam. There's none of that. There is him getting with Mary Todd, like in history, and he has, I want to say 3 or 4 sons. One son dies of sickness, and then the other, Tad and Willie. Willie is the one that in the movie that the vampire lady, because I remember a vampire lady poisons him. They got that right, at least. But I did find it, but they got it right that his son, that in the book that his son was poisoned, but it wasn't by a lady. It was just by some random person. It was by some random vampire, and his evil trinity, or his trinity that he had with him because of Henry and the war and his union that he was involved with. They tried to catch him, and he just committed suicide. Henry was poisoned. Not Henry, but Willie was poisoned, and he died, and it destroyed Lincoln. It really destroyed Lincoln. And I hate what happens to him, but at the same time, it's good character development to see of how he stops hunting vampires. He stops hunting vampires to stay in politics and to be the president and to also be a husband and a father. And when his son is killed, he goes berserk, and Henry tries to apologize, but Lincoln loses it, and he's no. Ever since I've met you, all I have been greeted with is death. You bring me death. And him and Henry get into a big fight, and Henry basically grabs him by the collar and says, no. You think you've had it bad? No. You have no idea what I've gone through to protect you, to protect myself. You have no idea what I've lost. So stop complaining. And then he says one more final time, he says, like, I will win this war, and I will win it my way, or I will win it on my own without the help of vampires, or something like that. And Henry, the last thing that Henry ever says to Lincoln, or face to face, is he says, Mr. President. And I thought that was a pretty cool, I thought that was an okay way to get Henry out, because after that, Lincoln is basically trying to win the war, and he does fight for slavery, but he even wants to fight for it more when he finds out that slaves are getting owned, that our slaves are owned by vampires. And when he frees the slaves, the slaves turn on their vampire masters, and I just thought that was poetic justice. One thing I don't know if this is historically accurate, but it says in the book Abraham Lincoln was in love with someone else, and she died of sickness, and it tore Abraham up. And he said he would never fall in love again. He meets with Mary. He meets Mary Todd, and at first he's wanting to marry her, but then he wants to call it off because he finds out that his future father-in-law is associated with vampires, and he did not want to bring Mary grief, but he eventually does. I think it was one of his companions that he called Speed, said, you know what, so what? You have a woman who loves you, go be with her. So what if her father is in companions with vampires? Even though Abraham Lincoln said at a very young age, I will kill every single vampire in America. And oh my gosh, the way how he kills vampires, I mean, besides his axe, he has a belt full of some kind of... it kind of sounds like an early version of a Molotov cocktail. He has a knife, and of course his trusty axe, which, by the way, is not a gun inside it. I do love in the book, though, how Abraham and Henry meet. Henry, Lincoln is chasing, or he's pursuing a vampire, and it's a woman. And it's a battle in the fog, and she's trying to drown him, and it's about when it's when he is about to, actually no, he does pass out. Henry saves him, and that's how they meet. He saves him. He tells him about vampires. He tells him how about everything with vampires. And at first, Lincoln wants to kill him. It kind of reminded me in The Walking Dead when Rick woke up after, when he woke up from his coma, and he woke up again because Wayne hit him in the head. And he wakes up and he's got a bandage wrapped around him, and that's the same thing here. Lincoln has a bandage wrapped around him, and thus this is how he meets Henry, and how he goes after vampires. Henry sends him letters, you know, like assassination contracts. And it says, like, this is who the vampire is, blah, 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 blah. And this book is just filled with so many great stories. There's no one big bad villain. There's so many other ones, and it's just a great... It's a great story. It's a great read. I had fun reading this. This is one of the funnest books I've ever read. Now, if you guys seen that I still have my bookmark in here, that is because there is another story in this, and apparently it's about the three wise men who found Jesus when he was born, or they seen the star when he was born or something. And when they go and meet him, apparently it's a story about how they could possibly be vampires. But Abraham Lincoln kills vampires because of what happened to his mother, and he becomes vengeful. When his mother dies, Lincoln changes, and he has hatred toward his father, and his little cousin actually has to get him to go out. His little cousin is kind of like my little niece Rhea. She's like, come play with me, and I eventually do give in, but he got Lincoln to stop moping around and enjoy life, pretty much. And that's how he actually did a lot of things. He played war with him all the time, and it got him out of his moping. And then he eventually does become the greatest vampire hunter. My favorite thing in the book is when he was fighting someone, he got a scar on his lower chin, on the lower part of his chin, by his own axe that almost killed him. And that's why he grew out the beard. Was because of that, and I thought that was just great. Though the book never does address if Mary knew he was a vampire hunter, unlike in the movie, how she's like, I've known for a long time that you've been a vampire hunter, I've just been waiting for you to tell me, and all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. No. It never says that she knew, but it does go into, like, how him and her would never talk to each other after the death of their son. Mary broke down. They never really talked, and when they do the whole theater thing, it's described greatly on how everyone cried, and how at his funeral there were so many people at his funeral waiting to see the open casket. And it says that at the funeral Henry was there, and how he feels so upset about what happened to Lincoln because he knew him better than no one else did. And the end of the book, it says that at the end of the book, it says that they see Henry walking with a mysterious tall figure, and the book ends with him saying, "Some people are just too interesting to die." So Abraham Lincoln eventually became a vampire. But when I was talking to one of my friends about the book, because she has been saying the whole entire time, you know, I can't wait for you to finish the book so we can discuss it. I kept thinking, I don't think Abraham would want to be a vampire because of how he hated them so much. And every time Abraham lost a loved one, Henry would always be like, it's like, you know, I can bring her back. I can bring her back. I can bring this person back. But then Abraham would be like, if they were brought back, they would never age. Even though they would experience life, they would also experience life as a monster, and he does not want anyone who he cared for to live like Henry does. Henry doesn't kill his own vampires, or he does, but he does it rarely. Unlike in the movie, how they say, I can't kill vampires because of some dumb reason. But this book does good. And what honestly surprised me, everyone kept telling me Edgar Allan Poe makes an appearance. Edgar Allan Poe's a vampire hunter. Just imagine that. And like how all of the stories Edgar Allan Poe is famous for writing, having him a vampire hunter makes sense, even though I know none of this is real. I know he wasn't a vampire hunter. But it makes sense to where Edgar Allan Poe would get all these crazy ideas. But once again, I strongly suggest you pick up Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter and give it a read. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing, but this is a book I would strongly suggest reading. Read the book before you watch the movie, unless you've already watched the movie. And if you have already read the book, put in the comments below, what was your favorite part about Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter? What was your least favorite thing? What did you love about Lincoln? Tell me in the comments below. Guys, I hope that you guys enjoy my channel. Stay tuned for Christmas, when you will be getting a very special present from Nick Smith himself and my nephew Tevis for a review, for a certain review you guys have not gotten yet that I've said that you guys will get. Guys, hit the like button. Tell your friends I have candy. Actually, no, that's a lie. I don't have candy. I have nothing to offer except my opinions. Guys, I hope you all are having a very, very Merry Christmas season, and I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This is Nick Smith, signing off.